you want to give more than you take. And so like as a church, you taking is your invite. Hey, come to service, come to us. So you want to give content that's encouraging or entertaining or educational to them so that they're learning something, they're being fed throughout the week. And then it's like, hey, come to church. You're not trying to like twist their arm.
Today on the Church Candy Podcast, we're going to be sitting down with Allie, Schaal. She is the founder of HVNSNT, and HVNSNT focuses on social media strategy for churches. Think posting, how do you get good reels and carousel images? That is what they do. Now, a lot of people ask me all the time, how can we have a better posting strategy? How many days should we post out of the week? What should we do for this and that? And I'm going to be honest, at Church Candy, we really focus on getting butts in seats, and we kind of use social media to do that. We don't necessarily do posting for churches, and so that's why I love having people like Allie on the pod. This is a great conversation that we have. And now I want to invite you to do two things really quick. Number one, before we jump in, I would love for you to give us a review on iTunes and Spotify, or if you are watching this on YouTube, give it a like and subscribe. That really helps us out in what we're trying to do, reaching people and empowering them to use social media to build the kingdom. And then number two, if you haven't already gotten a copy of my book, Plan Your Visit Playbook, I would love to send you a copy. The book is free. All you have to do is pay $8.50 for shipping. You can go to planyourvisitplaybook.com. I also link it in the show notes or the description of the YouTube video if you want to get this ordered. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the pod. Welcome to the Church Candy Podcast, the podcast of sweet ministry success. I'm your host, Brady Sticker, and let's jump in. Today, I'm sitting down with Allie from HVNSNT. You might not know Allie. You might not know HVNSNT, but I promise you, you know a lot of the pastors and churches that she has worked with, including but not limited to Christine Kane, Mike Signorelli, City Light Church with Javen Chavez. Allie, I was super impressed whenever I was checking out what you guys have going on. So tell me about what you guys do for churches.
Yeah, so HVNSNT, our little spiel is we're a full service, all-inclusive social media agency, I guess you could say. So we do everything from content creation to consultation, strategy to full-on profile management. So typically for senior pastors, but also for churches. So it just kind of depends.
I love it. And so we were actually talking right before we pressed record. And so here at Church Candy, we help churches get butts and seats, right? Like we help people plan a visit to the church. But we get asked all the time, okay, but what kind of content should we be posting?
Right.
What's, the best strategy for X, Y, and Z? And so, that's why I wanted to have you on here. Because you're creating content for a lot of these churches, a lot of these pastors. And so I'd love to hear, what's your typical strategy whenever it comes to whenever something goes live on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
What were the steps that it took before it actually showed up as a post and you pressed publish?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, and I guess anytime you listen to anybody talk about Instagram, is they'll talk about niching down, which I kind of am pro, I'm kind of against, it just depends. But when we onboard a new client, the first thing we do is we deep dive about everything, who they are, their audience, what their audience enjoys. And we do that by looking at, just high performing posts and analytics and things like that. And then compare it to what they're currently teaching because we want it to still be relevant. And try to combine those two things, create content that their audience is for sure going to like, but also that we think they would like. We create a brand guide for them for social media that changes quarterly. And then we just kind of get to work, make graphics, make reels, make sure the caption is interesting enough to hopefully people would read it. And then we kind of get going with it.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. So let's kind of talk through that. So let's say a reel.
Yes.
In your opinion, what do you think makes a church's or a pastor's Instagram reel or a TikTok video a good one? What does it need to have? What does it not need to have?
Oh my gosh. Hot take. I think the shorter, the better. When Instagram released the 90-second reels, it was like, okay, this is awesome. This is cool. You don't need the full 90 seconds. That's my cross to carry. That's the hill I will die on. I think a good reel is 30 seconds to 45 seconds at max. I understand with sermons, Sometimes you need a lot of context, so sometimes they'll be longer. But I would say make it short as you can. Uh, and then also it's like, it's easy to be like, let's do the ones where I'm yelling. Let's do those ones. You don't need to yell to get your point across. Those moments are great. We'll showcase them, but also like know that those moments where you're teaching and it's practical. And something that we like to say in our consultations is it's like your content needs to be easily digestible for somebody who's never been to church, because say they're scrolling, pops up on their For You page, their Explore page, their Reels page, they're able to understand, but also your seasoned person who's been in your church for 10 years also is going to get something out of it. Not that everything is one size fits all, but it should be able to hit both parties.
Yeah, you want to serve more than just one person.
Yeah, like you don't need this deep theological, unless that's your niche, then go for it. But also have ones that anybody could understand. I think that's the win.
Yeah, I love it. So let's say you want to take a clip from a Sunday message. So you want to take a clip from a church's or a pastor's message. How do you find a clippable moment from that sermon?
Yeah, one, we ask our pastors that we work with or their teams, like, hey, was there anything stand out when you were in the room or that that they would want mentioned? And I wish there was even like a better process for it, but like our team, we do watch every message to make sure that we're getting it. And again, we look at it from the lens of what does your audience enjoy? So like right now, the church I attend, we're in a relationship series, and we know that anytime he talks about marriage, like the relationship between a husband and wife and how communication should work, that's going to pop off. We just know that from like back end stuff. Or anytime he specifically addresses singles, like we did a clip where it's like, you're not going to find the right person in the club at 1 a.m. You're going to find the right person with the right group of friends. We're like, oh, that hits the people who are trying to help their single friends get married and the single friends who are in the club and are frustrated they can't find anybody. And so it's all encompassing. So it's wanting to hit what the audience wants, but also staying true to our values and what the pastor is sharing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So, because one of the things that we struggle with is because we'll, if a church asks like, hey, here's our message, can you find a portion in it to use for social media? And rather than just sitting through and watching the whole like hour sermon, we'll say, okay, well, was there anything that kind of stood out as a good clippable moment, right? One of the things that we've said is like, whenever you're preaching, also have someone on your team listening on that message intentionally for almost like hooks.
Yes.
So like one of the things we'll say is like a hook is the first thing that you say in a reel or a TikTok. That very first thing that comes out of your mouth would be a hookable moment, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. So whenever we listen, when we coach our pastors or the churches, like listen for those hooks in the message. Like, oh my gosh, what he said just then would be a great, and then taking the context and what came after that would be a great reel for social media. Yeah. Now on that same kind of trajectory, question I get all the time from pastors, how often should our church be posting?
That is the question. That is the question. I think ideally a church, if you can, it's kind of like a twofold answer. One, as much as you can maintain well. If you are like, say you're a smaller church and you have a volunteer doing your social, it's okay. Like 4 times a week, that's great. If you're able to do every single day, that's fantastic. If you're able to do multiple a day, that's also great. I would say your church should post, ideally every day, but like 4 to 6 times a week is fantastic. What you don't want to do is just post on Saturdays, hey, come to church. It's kind of like, and I don't even know if this is like an old reference, but like we all love Gary Vee. We're all like in his fan club, but the whole like jab, 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 right hook thing where it's like you want to give more than you take. And so like as a church, you taking is your invite. Hey, come to service, come to us. So you want to give content that's encouraging or entertaining or educational to them so that they're learning something, they're being fed throughout the week. And then it's like, hey, come to church. You're not trying to like twist their arm.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So with that, wanting to post ideally every day.
Yeah.
You've probably seen this just like I have. let me ask, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see pastors or churches making when it comes to their social media content?
Okay, can I tell you what is like grinding my gears right now? This is like
What
so
is it?
dumb. Why are people posting QR codes on Instagram? Have you seen that?
Yes.
And it's breaking my heart. I'm holding, this is the scanning device. I can't scan with the scanning
How?
device in
What
my
do you
hand.
want me to do?
I don't understand.
I think you can screenshot it and then go to the Photos app and then like hold it down. I think that is one workaround. But even then,
Who's doing that?
it's like, okay, thanks for the QR code. So one of the things that I've seen on that same regards is in the Instagram caption posting a link. It's like
Oh,
you know that no one can click that, right? So if you are watching this, Allie, what is the correct way to do that? You want to send someone to a landing page or a website. What is
yes.
the correct way to do that?
One, use your story. I think stories slept on. Everybody now has the ability to add a link. If you didn't know, happened a few years ago. Now you know.
Yeah, no more 10K to swipe up. Anyone can post.
Which that was such a flex when you would get it, by the way. And it was, I remember getting it for some of my clients. It's like, oh my gosh, can you just do a story saying swipe up so we could use it? Um, put a link in your story or have something like a link tree or link in bio or like
Yeah.
there's a million resources for you now. Definitely just point them there, or run an ad with a direct link on it. That works too. Don't put a link in your Instagram caption or use a
Yep.
QR code. But I don't even remember what your original question is. This QR thing, it's a burden. It's something I carry.
It's what grinds your gears. No, I love it. I love it. It's that and then the links in the
Oh
captions
my God.
that are the two things. It's like, what are you have you ever clicked a link in the caption?
Is this
I
your
don't
first
know.
day
No,
on
if you
Instagram? Is this your first day on Instagram?
yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I think a lot of the times to give grace and kind of devil's advocate, if we're gonna put ourselves in
Right.
their shoes, they're probably just posting the same thing on Facebook as they are on Instagram.
Totally.
But there's no excuse for the QR code and
It's so
in the graphic. I think what that probably is they probably have like a slide that they would put up like on stage,
Yeah.
like during their Sunday service that has a QR code. Awesome. Use that. That's great. I think that makes sense.
fantastic.
Just have
Yeah.
people stand there. Awesome. But just make another graphic or like maybe don't even do graphics. Let me ask you this.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on just like flooding a church's feed with graphics? Just like Canva,
Oh,
obvious Canva templates. Like what are your thoughts on that? Can give us the inside scoop.
I mean, it's twofold for sure. It's the cheesiest saying in the world. I learned it from Church of the Highlands at a social media thing they had with like an ARC training where they were like, your church's social media should be a window into the life of your church and not a billboard. And I heard that when I was like 19. I'm turning 29. That has like, that's the thing I remember the most in the past 10 years of my life. But yeah, is you don't want what you don't want is to go on your church's Instagram and just see a bunch of advertisements for different events, different things going on. I would say the best thing that you could do is if you're going to run something as promotional, make it not look promotional, make it not sound promotional. If that's going live and keeping the live on your feed, if that's recording a reel, if that's doing, I feel like they were really cool a few years ago and now they're coming back. Those reels where it's like sticky notes in a bunch of places or, a screen recording of you typing on your notes on your computer. Do something like that. I don't love it when it's flooded. I think it's really bad for engagement. Instagram can kind of see, Meta, they know everything. They know that
Yeah.
you're trying to promote something, so they're going to reduce the exposure that those get because they want you to spend. And so your little work around that is make a reel, make a video, show the life of your church. Because if it's, Easter's coming up, if I am thinking of attending a new church, and I know you have a bunch of resources for churches as well about this, I don't want to go on your Instagram and just see the same Easter graphic 12 times. I want to look at your feed and see who's going to this church. What do they look like? Are they old? Are they young? Do they look like me? What do they sound like? Who's the pastor? I don't want to go and be super confused. I want to go and know what I'm getting myself into and feel welcome and feel like I already know these
Yeah.
people. And that's what your Instagram is a great tool for. I'm sure there's a statistic about it and it would be really cool if I knew it, but it's like I want to know the amount of people who visit your church's Instagram first before they even go to your website, because you could have this bomb website, but now it's, it's 2023. Naturally, I'm searching things on Instagram and TikTok before I go to their website or go to Google. And so make sure your website is your Instagram is like a landing page for your church.
Yeah, absolutely. And for pastors and church leaders out there,
Yeah.
they need to talk about their events. They need to get this out there.
Yeah.
One thing I would recommend doing too is make sure you have great photography and video content of the Sunday service. And so, for example, this year for Easter, if you're going to promote that, take photos from last year when everyone's dressed up in their pastel colors from your Easter service last year.
Yeah.
Post those types of photos, and then you can talk about Easter in the caption, right, without flooding it with a Canva graphic with all of those things on there.
With the font
that's typically what I recommend.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction that I point a lot of pastors to there. So, one of the questions we get a lot is how often should I be posting reels versus another one that's really popular right now are carousels.
Yeah.
So do you have any strategy on a ratio or kind of reference on post this many reels versus carousels? What do you kind of recommend there?
Yeah, if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, it would have been like, hey, a reel every other day, because that's what Instagram was caring about. I think rule of thumb would be one, whatever Instagram is promoting. So if you don't follow creators and I'm going to butcher his last name. Is it Adam Mosseri? I literally don't know how to say it. The Instagram.
I know what you're talking about, but I think it's literally Instagram growth coach or something like that, right?
Yeah. So follow these people, whatever they're talking about, because they're the experts, or whatever the Instagram CEO is talking about. That's what Instagram is focused on. And so right now they are kind of making the shift where Instagram was so reels focused. They're making the shift now where they're leveling the playing field, which is fantastic for social media managers everywhere, because scheduling reels is a nightmare. And scheduling a carousel, it's a dream. I love it. I could do it all day. I would say you don't ever want to lean too hard on one thing. So if you did a reel, give it a day or 2, 3 days break, do a carousel, do a static graphic. If you're a senior pastor, don't neglect showing your personal life as well, showing a photo of you at the park with your kids, or you out to lunch, or you prepping for a sermon. I always love it when you see a pastor, a senior pastor, share a photo of their desk.
And those behind the scenes.
Oh, I love it. And people love it. And they always will do well. They will never do bad. Making sure you have a balance. For our clients, usually, we plan everything week chunks, and so you see it. We really do spread it out. I don't think there's a right or wrong formula, but if we do a reel one day, the next day is not going to be a reel. Chances are we're probably going to do a carousel, a static graphic, a photo, and then we're going to repeat the cycle. Unless we see somebody where it's all of their reels are taking off, we're going to ride that wave.
Yeah. How do you recommend churches and pastors coming up with the content to actually post on those static graphics or carousels?
Yeah, I think what you had said earlier about the hook, one of the best things one of the best habits I picked up on was in a sermon, you're listening. One, you should listen to get fed, but then you should also listen for content. And it's, what are those one-liners? What are those statements? One that sounded good, because you can listen to something and you can kind of know oh, Instagram is gonna, people are gonna love when we talk about, you're in a storm, but victory's on its way because of, the God we serve. That did not sound like an Instagram quote, but let's, for the sake of this, say it did. And your congregation responded really well to that. You could tell, you hear the people. That's a great moment to write down. But then also knowing your audience, knowing, hey, anytime we post about a storm, it does really well. Not that you should preach for social media, but I don't think it's bad to have that in your mind.
I don't think that's.
Yeah, but I'm a preacher.
In my 2 cents on that, you're gonna reach the possibility of way more people on social media than
Oh,
in
yeah.
your church building, especially because the average church in America, has 60 people or less.
Right. Yeah.
So you're going to reach way more people on social media. So, because I've had pastors say, well, I don't want to just craft my sermons just for people to hear online. I'm not saying that you should do that.
Right.
But at the same time, you are going to have way bigger audience and a way bigger potential platform on literal social media platforms to reach, and then still encourage people and share the gospel with those people. Does that mean you should neglect the house and your congregation? No, absolutely not.
Right.
But you have so much more potential to reach people.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is kind of silly is whenever a pastor or a church will say, well, how do I come up with content? Like what type of things do I need to be, posting? And I think it's so funny that it's like they neglect the hours that their lead pastor spends on the message every single week. And look, churches are like one of the original content creators.
Yeah.
Right. Churches are like the only organization where every single week they are creating brand new content. That gives churches a way bigger advantage than a plumbing company trying to create content. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
I always recommend lean into that heavily. And that's one of those, like, to me and you, Allie, sound like super obvious. Like, yeah, just take what you guys are preaching about. How can we repurpose those ideas or the literal videos of the pastor speaking it in your church's content? You can take reels from that. One of the things I've said to do too is I've even told some pastors, like, look, maybe you're not confident in your live stream setup that or the cameras and stuff that you're using for your Sunday service.
Yeah.
Well, two things. One, you could have someone sit on the front row of your church, just go like this, or get a little iPhone mount. These, I've got whatever the most recent iPhone is.
Yeah.
The camera on this is like very impressive.
Yeah.
It's really good. Like these people neglect cell phone cameras for content. Yeah. Like you can get a really good video with this. Just set it up on the front row and you can extract some good clips from that.
Yeah.
And then two, it is okay to turn the camera around and just share the same idea.
Yes.
But it's just you talking into your phone, right?
Yeah.
Where you're just talking. I think that's one of the things that are slept on as far as like content ideas for churches. Like they're spending hours sermon prepping just for it to be preached once and then sit on a Facebook live stream video archive for years.
Well, it's kind of like, and what I tell especially newer clients when they're like, we just don't know where to start. We don't know what to do. And I'm not saying social's easy, because I think there's parts of it where it's frustrating and it's confusing. But I think we add a lot of pressure to it where it's like, it's actually not that complicated. And like you're talking about, Gary Vee, he calls it like content pillars, where it's like, okay, here's your big video. Now we're going to make these 4 little videos. And from there, we're going to make 2 graphics from each video. It's really, I don't want to say it's not that deep because I don't want to downplay what we do, but it's not that complicated. We don't need to make it more complex than it is. And even what you're saying about using your iPhone camera, it's like, this is fantastic. And the amount of times I request from pastors where it's like, hey, just have them pull out their phone and do a selfie video. That's kind of what we call it. And it's like, well, we could get like the whole setup. And it's like, yeah, but I actually think it'll perform better if you just film it on your iPhone because it feels a lot more natural and organic. And so, yeah, the pressure that we have built up around it, it's not necessary, in my opinion.
Yeah. But talk to me about, I feel like a lot of church leaders value excellence, and then sometimes that can come at a cost of like engagement for me. I think you kind of know where I'm going with this. So walk me through your experience with that.
Yeah, I don't think excellence is bad. I think excellence is biblical. I think it's what we should do. I think if you can make it amazing, make it amazing. But again, know time and place, maybe. I guess that's the right way to say it.
Yeah.
Where if Easter's coming up, you have an egg hunt happening. We don't need your box lights and a teleprompt. It's like, no, just film a quick little, hey, we're at the egg hunt. This is amazing. 3,000 families showed up. We have 10,000 eggs in a helicopter and everything crazy that these churches are doing. That's great and that's fun and that's fine. I think a church that does it really well, where it's like the line of excellence, but also just kind of like organic feeling content, is Shoreline City. I'm obsessed with their reels. I don't know if they have like a social team. I don't know if they send people to it or if they just request leaders. I would love to know. But you'll look at their reels of like small groups, and you can tell it's just iPhone clips of people hanging out at somebody's house. They look very much like TikTok, and I think that's why TikTok's so enjoyable, is because it's not so polished.
Yeah.
And so they do a really great balance of it. I've tried a few reels like that for clients. They always do well. And it's because it feels more personable, in my opinion. And so
Yeah.
I think, yeah, get your DSLR, do it, make it look great. But also, if you're just like out, something I loved about working for Pastor Jensen is he would like go on a run or he'd be on a walk and he would be praying and he'd go on Instagram Live and he's like, hey, I'm just praying for church. I'm praying for pastors. We're going to have a great weekend. And it would crush. It would do so well. And so, again, take the pressure off. You're not, it doesn't have to be a feature film. It can just be your iPhone camera. And it'll do really well. It'll be great.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times we have the mindset of, okay, we want everything our church to do to be excellent. And so I want to record a video to promote our Easter service or whatever event you have going on. And so they think it needs to be like an announcement video where they use the fancy camera like I've got here and they've got the lower thirds with the pastor's name and they've got the background music that sounds like it's a commercial. And then when you see that on social media, it looks like a commercial. It looks like an ad. And so people are just going to start scrolling. Like whenever I'll speak at different conferences and I'll tell a story about how I remember when I was a kid, and you might remember this, Allie, whenever TiVo first got really big. I don't know, did your family have TiVo?
We didn't. We weren't that cool, but yeah.
Okay, so I guess it was just Billy and Rusty Sicker that were the cool parents.
Clearly,
that had
I know.
TiVo.
Clearly, I know.
And I remember when we got it because what I loved about it is you could fast forward the commercials.
Right.
And like you didn't have to watch. It was like the first like DVR that was like super accessible.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of millennials, or I'm technically Gen Z, and we just, because we don't watch commercials, we just like fast forward. So if anything obviously looks like an ad or looks like a commercial on social media, it's just immediately scroll, keep going, and you don't even think about it anymore. That's one of the things that grinds my gears.
How can it? Yeah, right. This is just us venting about social media habits that need to go. But yeah, it's like, how can it be an ad without looking like an ad? This is so left field, and I'm so sorry if this is, again, not what you...
No, let's do
cut
it.
me off if you don't. How often are you on TikTok? Are you on TikTok a lot?
I'll have to delete it because I find myself on it too much. So yeah.
Okay, I get it. A few weeks ago, did you ever see where Hilton, the hotels, they did a 10-minute TikTok ad?
I did not, but that sounds very funny.
Okay, and so it started out with Paris Hilton, and she's like, you're going to watch a 10-minute TikTok. And obviously, I'm like, what the heck? This is not going to be a 10-minute... TikTok does 10-minute TikToks? And what they did is they had a bunch of different creators talking about, like, almost like why this ad worked, or like, they had different ones, like Girl Boss Town or Chris Olsen, just like all these big TikTokers, and talking about why the ad worked. And oh my God, I'm not going to watch a 10-minute TikTok. And then next thing I know, it loops. I watched the whole 10-minute TikTok. And it was so weirdly inspiring to me because I was like, I watched a 10-minute ad and I don't know, like, this is clearly working.
But it like broke the fourth wall. Like it wasn't like a commercial.
Yeah. And I loved it. Don't make a 10-minute Easter ad, but find a way to, make an ad that's not an ad, if that makes sense.
So one of the best examples of this I saw recently, do you follow Stephen Chandler?
Yes.
Or Union Church?
Yeah.
So did you see the one he did recently? I've reshared it on my story. It was that good. So
no,
I didn't realize it. So it starts out saying Michael Jordan's the GOAT or LeBron's the GOAT. It was just like or maybe he said like, this is a hot take, and it had nothing to do with church. It was like a basketball thing. And I was like, okay, where's he going with this? Because we work with Union Church and some other campuses. And so I was like, all right, Pastor Stephen, where are you going? And he goes on to like make this big argument on the go to basketball. And then at the very end, he transitions. And these are the types of conversations that we have at our community nights for our men's group, Saturday at 7 p.m. or whatever the time was. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was genius. Because at first I'm like, okay, cool. But it was like on the Union Church Instagram. So I was like, it's kind of weird. it'd be one thing if it was Pastor Steven's Instagram just talking about Michael Jordan being the GOAT. But then at the end, he kind of pivoted to that. And I was like, okay, I reshared it on my Instagram, and I was like, pastors, take notes. This is how you promote an event
That's
on
so good.
Instagram.
Oh, now I
I
want to
thought it
go
was so
and look
good.
at that's so good. Oh, now I want to go and look at it. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. So
Yeah.
Allie, thanks for hopping on. If a church leader or a pastor, if they want to learn more about what you guys do, because you guys have, a service for churches where you create content for them to post on their Instagram and social medias, right?
Yeah. So we just launched a new offer for churches where if you don't have the capacity or the bandwidth or even just know how to make Instagram, Facebook, TikTok posts, we want to be that solution for you. And so whether you need just content or you need strategy or just somebody to bounce your ideas off of, we're here for you. So you can learn more at HVNSNT.co, because .com was a little bit, out of budget. But it's HVNSNT.co. And we have that new offer, and I'd love to talk to you guys about it.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll link that down below the description wherever you're listening or if you're watching on YouTube. So definitely go check that out. Go get connected with them. So Allie, any final thoughts or advice for pastors or church leaders whenever it comes to their social media content?
It's not that deep. You're okay. Pull out your iPhone. Don't put a QR code on your graphic. Use that link tree. And thank you for this. I love podcasts. I know we talked about it briefly, so this is a big moment for me. I love a podcast, so excited.
Of course. Yeah. You got to start the Heaven Sent podcast.
Hey, it'll be me and my dog. We'll just be talking, but I love it.
Wow, what an amazing conversation with Allie. Allie, thank you again. If you need help with your church's social media page and posting, go check out Heaven Sent. They're an awesome company. And at the same time, too, I want to invite you, if you haven't already gotten a copy of my book, Plan Your Visit Playbook, you can order a copy at planyourvisitplaybook.com. And hope to talk to you soon.